You know how sometimes you react to things almost on autopilot and you're not even sure why? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful framework from Lise Bourbeau that explains the unseen armor we all wear. It really all boils down to this one big question. Why do we so often hide who we really are? We put on a brave face, we try to be the person everyone wants us to be, but what are we actually protecting under all of that? Okay, let's get into it. According to Bourbeau, this whole behavior isn't something we're born with. It's something we learn, usually through a really painful discovery very early in our lives. She breaks it down into these 4 stages that are pretty much universal for kids. So first, you've got stage 1, that pure, simple joy of just being you. But then comes stage 2, the pain of realizing that being yourself sometimes makes the big people in your life unhappy. That leads to stage 3, a period of rage and rebellion. And finally, to deal with all that pain, we get to stage 4. We create a whole new personality to make things easier. We create a mask. And yeah, that whole process, it leaves a mark. The pain from that second stage, that feeling of not being allowed to be our true selves, creates what Bourbeau calls a wound. And to stop us from feeling that same pain over and over, our ego builds a mask. So what is a wound exactly? Well, think of it like a deep emotional injury. It's that inner suffering that comes from those early times when our authentic self just wasn't accepted. And that's where the mask comes in. It's our ego's clever little solution. It's a defense mechanism, really, a whole personality we build up to hide the wound so we don't have to feel that specific hurt ever again. Bourbeau has this brilliant way of explaining it. It's like having a cut on your hand that you never let heal. Instead of cleaning it and letting it get air, you just wrap a bandage around it to hide it. Well, that bandage, that's the mask. But the wound is still under there, right? And it still hurts like crazy when someone touches it. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating because it's so specific. Bourbeau identifies 5, and only 5, fundamental wounds that pretty much all our suffering comes from, and each one creates a very specific mask to go with it. Let's look at this table because this is the heart of the whole idea. The wound of rejection creates the mask of withdrawal. The wound of abandonment creates dependence. Humiliation leads to masochism. Betrayal, that creates the mask of control. And finally, a wound of injustice creates rigidity. So let's unpack these pairings a little bit. We're going to take a quick look at what each of these masks actually looks like out in the real world. Okay, so let's start with rejection. If that's your core wound, your ego's big plan is to make you withdraw. The logic is simple, right? If I become invisible, then nobody can push me away. It's a mask that's literally trying to disappear. Now, the fear of abandonment is a different story. It creates the mask of dependence. This mask operates from this core belief of, I can't do this alone. So it's always looking for attention and support, kind of clinging to other people to feel secure. When the wound is humiliation, the mask that forms is what Bourbeau calls masochism. Now, we're not talking about the physical sense here. It's more about emotionally taking on burdens. This mask makes you put everyone else's needs first, doing anything to avoid being shamed or put down yourself. A deep wound of betrayal, on the other hand, leads straight to the mask of the controller. This mask is always on high alert, super distrustful. It tries to manage every single person and situation to make sure it can never, ever be vulnerable or taken advantage of again. And finally, we have the wound of injustice, which creates the mask of rigidity. This mask is the ultimate perfectionist. It's driven by this idea that if I am absolutely perfect in every single way, then no one can ever find fault with me or treat me unfairly. Okay, so what's so important to get here is that these aren't just abstract ideas in a book. They show up in very real, very observable ways in our day-to-day lives. In fact, Bourbeau argues that our masks are so deeply ingrained in us that they even show up in our physical bodies, in the way we stand, the way we sit, all without us even realizing it. Just take a look at this. Think about how you sit. Someone with the withdrawer mask might try to literally shrink into their chair. The dependent, they need to lean on something for support. The masochist often sits with their legs wide apart, but still looking kind of uncomfortable. The controller leans back, arms folded, watching everything. And the rigid person, you guessed it, perfectly straight, legs pressed tight together. It's wild how our bodies tell our stories. Now, I want to be really clear about something. The point of identifying these masks isn't to judge ourselves or other people. The whole point of this work is awareness, because you just can't heal a wound if you don't even know it's there.
So the path to healing is kind of like reversing the whole process. Step 1, just recognize the mask you wear and do it without beating yourself up. Step 2, connect with that childhood pain it's been working so hard to protect. Step 3, feel compassion for that younger version of you. And step 4, this one's huge. Give yourself permission to just be human, to be imperfect, to be you, even if that's not what everybody wants.
And there's this poem by Helmer Soderbergh that just captures the desperation behind these masks so perfectly. At our very core, we just want to connect. We want to feel like we matter. The soul is terrified of being nothing to anyone, and our masks are just this flawed, deeply human attempt to make sure that never, ever happens.
So as we wrap this up, I'll just leave you with one big question to think about. Based on everything we've talked about today, which one of these protective masks do you recognize in yourself? Because understanding that, well, that's the first step to finally taking it off.